everybody, welcome back to the channel and another Hail Caesar faction review here. We're going to take a look today at the Feudal Scots as we're working our way towards the end of the entire set of armies and factions here. So roughly mid 11th century to early 14th centuries. So some people of note here in battles: David I, William Wallace, of course, Robert the Bruce, Stirling Bridge, Bannockburn, and just other medieval armies of the time. But let's dig in and see what the Scots actually give us game-wise. So the force here is going to be organized. Knights have to be up to 50% of the units, whether they're foot or mounted, so a little bit of flexibility there. This includes units of Scots spear pikemen with knights fighting in the front rank as well. Now, another caveat here is that infantry have to be half of the units in the army, again, excluding skirmishers. Then we get a special deal here with Scots spearmen. At least half of the non-skirmisher infantry as well in the army must be Scots medium infantry with long spears or pikes. So again, we have several key things that we have to have here. And again, just to clarify, right, knights up to 50%, but infantry at least 50 or more. And then half of that has to be the Scots spearmen. And again here, this includes units with knights fighting in the front rank. Divisions as well, we got some funky things going on here. So the typical 4 units, exclude skirmishers, must be led by a commander, of course. However, here, Highlanders and Islemen must be organized into their own divisions, which may also include skirmishing bowmen, as noted below. Highland and Islesmen divisions must contain at least 2 units, excluding skirmishers, and again have to have their own commanders. So just a lot of little organizational bits to keep in mind here. And then skirmishers per division, 25% of the infantry. So may contain up to a quarter as many skirmishers as non-skirmisher infantry. So let's dig into the list as well. Fair few things going on here. So we start off with dismounted knights, heavy infantry. So always nice just to have really good heavy infantry as standard units here. And so we get that. And also, though, we get stubborn built in. So we have basically as the core of our army, or a good chunk of our army, rather, we'll just have stubborn all the way across for 29 points. Now, if we want to pay an extra point, and there's no real restriction on this, aside from the army restrictions above, we can pay 1 more point and actually add tough fighters to that. So for 30 points, well worth it, I think. Might as well just have nothing but stubborn and tough fighters to really make these just some outstanding infantry. But as we saw, we have to have a lot of spearmen in the list here, so let's see what that package gets us. The basic bog standard one is 26 points. Now, if we want to give them pikes instead of long spears, it's another 3 points. It's going to let us have phalanx here, which is pretty cool in this medieval period. And then finally, extra to include dismounted knights fighting as front ranks as well. So another 3 points there. So as above, and it adds stubborn and tough fighters as well. So would have been nice to maybe see something like Clash go up to 7 there and just leave the sustained at 6 or something like that. But nonetheless, pretty cool. And again, some great options here in the medium slot, where usually we don't get as fancy of units as we would see with like the heavies or the lights usually. So that's pretty cool. Also then, Scots medium infantry with mixed arms, including bows. And so again, the bog standard one there. We get the medium infantry stat line with that nominal 1 shooting at long range as well. So just a little bit of flexibility, not as versatile as some of the units where we see like maybe a 2 or 3 there as well. But for 24 points, we really can't complain to get a little bit of shooting out of that. We could take the cheaper route, drop it down to levy, and make that a little bit more points friendly there at 21 points. But the other option, of course, would be we just ditch a little bit of the fighting ability and just actually have a medium infantry bowman list. The clash and sustain is going to drop on us, but we get that wonderful 3 for long range fire, but we still keep the medium infantry save, which is crucial. So that's also at 24 points. But again, if we want to spend a little bit less, light infantry bowman. So again, we drop the fighting ability yet more, which of course makes sense. No saves on these guys, but we still keep the 3 long range here, and that's all for 20 points. And then we can also take the other option here and go with small units for that as well, which really makes it pretty cheap there. And maybe having multiple small units can be useful too, just to divvy things up a little bit and start harassing the enemy. And that still gives us 2 as well for long range. Now then we also get skirmishing peasants with mixed arms as small units, levies. Dirt cheap, 9 points, but again, they're not going to last all that long, right? We get a massive clash of 3, sustain of 2 there, right? So we're not throwing a lot of dice, and certainly no armor, or morale saves rather. But again, if we just need to throw something as a speed bump at the enemy, and it can do in some circumstances, or if we've already tied them up, maybe with some of our better units above, maybe just adding that little bit of pressure with like a flank on some peasants could be fun and thematic as well. We do get the skirmisher package of bows there, small units, 12 points, normal stuff there, very good. Now let's dig into the exotic units here. They have the Islesmen, heavy infantry with spears, swords. We'll have that normal heavy infantry stat line. And then we could give them double-handed weapons as well for an extra point. It's going to change the short range up a little bit, not a big deal, but it does give us an actual 8 on clash for a infantry unit, which is pretty cool there. So and aside from other restrictions above, no real limit on that. Now, getting into the Highlanders is where we get some craziness here. So, medium infantry war bands, right, with a clash of 9, 5-up save. They have wildfighters and eager, so all for 28 points. And then if we wanted to get a little bit more versatility in here, right, we throw in some bows basically for 1 more point, and we get that, again, nominal 1 of shooting goodness. So it's going to, every now and then, maybe cause a little bit of damage, but we really shouldn't rely on that, right? But we get a wonderful clash of 9 with wildfighters and eager, right? Good stuff there. Finally, Scots Knights, Sergeants, Heavy Cavalry with Lances are our nominal mounted force here. Again, 9-6 as normal for Heavy Cavalry, and a 4-up save, bog standard at 33 points. Again, we could go all infantry, more or less, in the list, but leaving the cavalry at home would be a shame. But again, not going to be as heavy hitting and as good in a lot of cases as some of that of the other factions out there for the time period. But we do, if we want to get heavily invested in points, 37 points, ultimately we can make them cataphract, which is going to give us stubborn as well. So depending on how we organize this list, right, we can have essentially a more or less entire army of stubborn if we really wanted to, but also just like the units that really count would be the ones that would be stubborn, right? We don't need stubborn skirmishers and stuff like that, so that's out of the question anyway. But we could have a largely stubborn list, which would be pretty nasty to deal with, right? And then throw in again like a lot of tough fighters and wild fighters. It's going to be a pretty potent, punchy list, right? And a fair amount of heavy infantry and the heavy cavalry here, to where we can really also tank a little bit as well. So, which, we, even though the Scots didn't necessarily have all the heavy armor that maybe like the English had and other factions of the time, but the way that the list works here, right, we get a lot of that we can incorporate in there. So it's still pretty cool. Now, let's jump in here at the commanders, right? 1 commander must be provided per division. All Scots commanders, including the general, have leadership 8, so the standard there. But then the Highlanders and Islesmen, remember, they have to be their own division, so keep that in mind if you're going to invest in them. But they have 7, which, again, is going to maybe hamper us in some situations. So we want to be careful if we're taking them, that we can also then still work on giving effective orders and things like that. But all in all, a fun list here. Let us know, guys, if you've tried this and what you've played against and how you've organized your Scots list. Would be really interesting here. It would have been nice too, just to nominally include like the option to either include like Wallace or Bruce and maybe have some other special rules attached to it. But it is what it is here. So certainly nothing against house ruling that if you want to do something like that. Always cool, and affords some cool modeling opportunities as well, especially like if you want to create like Shiltron formations and stuff like that. So hit us up in the comments, guys. Let us know if you've played the Scots or against them from for Hail Caesar here and how that's gone. Be sure to like and subscribe as well. And check out the pinned comment there if you pick up anything from Warlord via that link. That'll also help us out. Thanks so much for watching.